Hello, everyone. Good to see you after a long awaited hiatus. Welcome back. You are here with me with a brand new course in startup training. We are going to be exploring the how to craft a perfect pitch. So for now, we'll be waiting on more people coming into the live stream, and we'll get started soon. Hi, everyone. Welcome back with Nikki and our startup training program here at the American Center at the U.S. Embassy in Hanoi. We are going to bring to you a brand new course in regards to one of the hottest topic right now, which is the startup community. So today we'll be talking, this is going to be a 4-session program where we'll go through the pitch, which is one of the most important things that we usually save at the end of a startup training program. So what exactly is a pitch, and why do we need to care about it? Why does the startup community need to know about it? So this is what we, today is the first lesson, today is the first lecture, and we'll go through the basic things about what it is. It's very easy to actually teach you how to do it. It's quite simplistic in terms of what it does, why it's there. But to be honest, understanding the whole concept of it and the depth and the substance of it is more important for startups to be successful than just to create a good, homework as a pitch deck for each of the startups. So first, hello and welcome to all of the people that are on the live right now. Let's see how many of you there are. We've got 118 people. Hi, nice to see you again. Hello. Good to see you. Hello, hello. How do you expand? Yes, here we are. Okay, thank you. Great to see all of you here. I am sorry for being in a hiatus. Yeah, we've been expecting some great news, and I'll be back with some of the training in regards to the startup. We'll have some very interesting topics to be discussing in the next couple of months. But for now, I'm wrapping up 2019 with the startup sessions on creating a pitch deck. So first is, what is pitching? I want to talk about the concept behind the pitch. Let's not talk about the PowerPoint. Let's not talk about the deck. Let's not talk about Prezi and all the fancy stuff. Let's go back into the basic. What is exactly a pitch? So a lot of times I see my Vietnamese startups and my mentees, they have a problem with, they try to copy what's happening in Silicon Valley. They're trying to act as American as possible. And they're trying to follow the norms of the startup world in general, without understanding what actually the interaction, the human and human interaction when it comes to a pitch. So basically the pitch is very interesting in a way that people communicate with each other. In a Western world where we have crowdsourcing, crowdfunding, we have sourcing of different ideas, and we've got debates, we've got even like the American election has different kinds of debates and platforms for people to talk about their rhetorics and their ideologies. But honestly, we don't have that kind of systems in a lot of Asian countries, and we don't have that kind of tradition where people exchange ideas and people throw out, this is my idea. And it might come from the more conservative way of expressing yourself. So usually we like the anonymity of, writing on Facebook, commenting. We can, Vietnamese people are known for being very vocal on the internet, but at the same time, in the real life, in workplaces, in the government agencies, we don't have that kind of ideas where people in different backgrounds, in different positions, are open to pitching. So the word pitching, what we mean here is not in the baseball sense that, you throw a ball. It's not that kind of definition. We are talking about the idea that there in the workplace, in a professional setting, there is a concept about pitching where everybody has something to provide. Everybody has some value to bring to the table. Everybody's got great ideas. And it's welcomed in the West that people share those opinions, and you can crowdsource brand new, novel, and interesting things from people that are normally probably would not be welcome to say something. So for example, in a company working in publishing or editorial, so in journalism, what we would have is an editorial pitch, which means that every reporter, every journalist, everybody can say, this is what's happening. The editorial board will have a meeting where the editor-in-chief, even though he's the highest person, is actually a listener. He's not the one talking, he's not the one giving direction, but he's actually the one listening. And he's asking, what do you guys have? What's interesting? What do our audience want? What's a new idea? What's a new concept? And the journalists, even the most junior entry level, can say, I have this idea. The editors throw in some ideas, and we've got a brainstorming session where people would bring out something new. So the act of pitching is basically something like that. So also, when you are working in, there's a very famous story about Apple. So when Steve Jobs was still in power at Apple, he had a very famous activity every year that he will secretly select some of the most not random, but the most unexpected people. Sometimes they're from the financing department, sometimes they're from the coding development, programming department. They might be juniors, they might be seniors people, and they bring those people in a brand new place where they didn't know about the trip beforehand. They just kind of randomly select people and kidnap them. And basically what happens in that secret place is that Steve Jobs would be asking, what ideas do you have? What new concept do you have? And that is where a lot of new ideas come up, where he would be listening to fresh voices. And a lot of great apps, a lot of great features from Apple were born in that setting. So a pitching is an activity where you are you are on a stage, and you are given the opportunity to have an audience where they will listen to what you have to say. In the startup world, pitching is the same exact thing. It's a platform where startups can come, and usually they talk about their great ideas for some benefit. Sometimes the benefit includes, of course, money is probably the first thing you will think about, getting investment. Secondly, you will pitch for awareness. Sometimes, a lot of times, people go and want people to know about their product. Sometimes it's a competition, a startup competition. Sometimes it's for getting a government support fund or entering a certain program by the government or accelerators or incubators. Basically, pitching is a kind of like an arena, a game where the startup founders have to be equipped enough in order to present themselves and their ideas and their business in a large crowd where they can successfully make people notice. They can successfully make people want to join the startup, want to invest, want to download the app. And that's how pitching became one of the most basic and mandatory skill that a startup founder needs to have. So this is in this course, we'll talk about how to pitch to sales, how to pitch to be successful, how to pitch to be to get the investment you want. But we will also talk about what does the pitch, imply, what is behind the pitch, because you might be a great actor. You might have a great performance, but if the character you're playing has no substance, then it's also meaningless. So you can have a great pitching style, you can have a great presentation, but if your startup sucks, high chances, it's your investment is not going to be good either. But we have seen a lot of great startups that have a lot of substance, a lot of potential, but just because their pitch wasn't so good, they didn't get the attention they wanted. They didn't get the investment they needed. They didn't get the message across. And that's why we want to come back to the investment 101 in pitching. So, a pitch deck. So now we have talked about the pitch as a verb. Now we'll talk about the pitch as a noun. So one concept is a pitch deck. Basically, deck is kind of like a fancy word for a PowerPoint presentation. So a pitch deck is basically a brief presentation that is often created in PowerPoint, Keynote, or Prezi. And it's used to provide the audience, your audience with a quick overview of your business plan. You will usually use a pitch deck during a face-to-face or online meetings with potential investors, customers, partners, and co-founders. So it's used in this situation. As I told you, the pitch is about when you have a platform and you can share what's great about you, your startup, your business, etc. So we've got people here. Good to see everyone. Thank you for being here. Hello. Oh, hello Zoom. Good to see you. So we've got a friend of mine who is one of the very successful business owners. Here, he has got a great concept. One of the best restaurants in Hanoi is owned by this person. And basically, I think that he will have a lot of great insights to share with you. In the business, the F&B, for example, business, when do you need a pitch? So for example, here, we've got a person who is opening a restaurant. And I would love to share your ideas in your restaurant here. For somebody who knows Mr. Zung, he's one of the co-founders of the Salmonoi restaurant, along with Pincho and Tapas and many other brands of F&B. So it's also one of my all-time favorite restaurants. Pincho is my favorite restaurant, but it came out after Salmonoi. So let's say, for example, Salmonoi, for people who know the restaurant, the concept is about salmon. So people who love salmon in their dishes, and it was a very good concept at that time, because we were creating these kind of fine dining French atmosphere kind of places in Hanoi, when the F&B was thriving. A couple of years ago. Apparently now it's quite difficult in the Corona situation, but at that time, so that was a concept. So the first thing you should have is a pitch deck to introduce that to other co-founders, because it's very easy to say, oh, we work in restaurants business, we work in F&B, but what kind of restaurant? Are you owning a Vietnamese pho place? Are you, doing how are they different? So a pho place, apparently, the price will be very different. The investment will be quite smaller. The cash flow might be fast and easy and every day, but maybe the bill per customer is very small. Who would want to work and open something like that? Well, somebody who is familiar with the dish and wants something easy to make cash flow. But if you're doing the salmon concept, then what's going to happen is you are going to have a more selective database, a customer base, because the people who would be the first adopters of eating salmon. Salmon is nowadays you find it very common, but it used to be a kind of food that is more exotic. We didn't import that much, a Norwegian salmon before. We didn't grow. We didn't raise salmon in Sapa at that time. So it's a more exotic food that is more suitable for younger and more well-traveled people. But they are also, what are they? They are also trendsetters. They give other people the idea concept of trying something new. And that concept combined with the luxurious settings, which is also something that is that was newer at that time, and coupled with drinks, great drinks, wine selection, desserts, and that kind of like 3-course meal, appetizer, Western main course, and then dessert. That kind of dining was very trendy at that time. It was very new. And so we can see that it's more attractive for young people. The bill per customer might be a little bit higher. You can cash out on the drinks, wine list, things like that. And most of your investment is probably gonna come from, decoration, hiring the staff, which is, requiring a little bit more high-skilled staff. So those are the things that we want to have in a pitch. So if you want to invite a co-founder, you've got to let the co-founder know why it's special, why they should join. Are they aligned with the same concept? Do they think that that concept is something that is suitable in this market? And the thing about the pitch is, before, what I mean by before is about 20 years ago, 30 years ago, all the businesses, what we are taught when we go to MBA school, what we go to masters in business and things like that, is we learn how to write a business plan. And I am still a big fan of business plans. I still think that companies, startups or not, when they write the business plan, that is when they harness all of the clarity they have about their business. That's when they do their due diligence. That's when they learn how to do finance, HR management, and all of those things. But a business plan takes forever to make. And if you are not equipped with this, with a great mentor, or if you are not familiar with that corporate language, it might take you, 2 or 3 years before you can write your 100-page business plan. And a lot of times entrepreneurs and startup owners, founders are not equipped with those things. And so the business plan moved to be a great business model, a one-page business model, a drawing of the business, and also the pitch deck. So you can bring that to co-founders and show them all of those things. Please join me. It's very profitable. It's a great idea. That's one of the things. Secondly, you bring it to your partners because, for example, you will need partners. And by partners, I don't mean suppliers. Sometimes when you work in a certain business, for example, let's say a different business, let's say you are exporting high-end furniture. So maybe because you are an exporter and you work in furniture, most of your job will be, designing and exporting, doing the export work. Is it going to be woodwork? Maybe not. Maybe you are not going to own your factory. Maybe you will need a partner, somebody who is, who you would be, in a business dating relationship where they will stay loyal to you, they will give you the best prices, they will support you, and you will also support them. And that kind of partnership, you need to sign a memorandum of understanding, an MOU, principal contract, those kind of things. And with those kind of things, then we can have the partnership where we have to convince them that we are worthy of being their partner. And that's when you can also show them, hey, we are a great business. We can be a great client for you, but we don't want to be your client. We want you to support with this, this, and that. And why you should support us? Because our business is booming. We'll become very big in this industry. And if you don't work with us right now, then you will regret it in the future. And lastly, you can give it even to your customers. And you can share with them why you should take an Uber car instead of, or a Grab car, instead of using, the traditional miling taxi, those kind of things. So the pitching becomes kind of like a skill that businesses and companies start to have to master in order to stay in the more modern kind of a world. And it's a great tool for you to convince other people. And especially it's used in the setting where you're asking for money from investors. So in all, the pitch deck, which is the PowerPoint presentation, should usually be only about 10 to 20 slide presentations. It's designed to give a short summary of what your company or your business plan and your vision. So remember that the pitch itself, even if you design it really well, if it doesn't have a great vision behind it, if it doesn't have a great business story behind it, it's worthless. Number two, it also serves a very different purpose. If you want to get a meeting with an investor, what usually happens is that you have to send them the business pitch first. So when I used to work in investment and in banking, usually when people ask for investment, I have to say, email me the pitch deck first. After I review your pitch deck, because I have to read, hundreds, dozens of them. So if I shortlist your pitch deck, then we can have a personal meeting where you can have the opportunity to talk to us directly. So that is when you can get the meeting to investor or to present in front of a stage. Each of them will have a different structure. So remember, we'll go through the lessons here and we'll talk about the norms, and I'll try to give you the best kind of like guideline. But remember, everything like art, is based on your personality, your story, and also how the audience. So it's not, set in stone that you have to follow these guidelines, but this is giving you kind of like what has been proven to be effective with other different cases. Thirdly, it's a demo day presentation. So for example, imagine the Apple keynote presentation. When Steve Jobs and now Tim Cook walks onto that stage, they have a big presentation behind them. They have a big slide behind them when it talks about every single great thing about the new iPhone or AirPod or iPad. And we'll have the iPhone 13 keynote speech maybe sometimes in this fall, very soon. And so please go watch that and see how people present itself. So it's a totality of what charisma of the founder. It's a presentation made by, the person, and it's also the slide behind them. So those things combined together will create the excitement that can give your company a boost. And lastly, a pitch presentation is those kind of things. So first, remember, it should be very visual and it contains very little text, because the main character in the story is you, because you will have to present it, you will have to be charismatic, and you will need to tell a story as a human, not a robot. So people shouldn't be, watching your slides and reading every single line. It should just be complimentary and supportive of what the story you're giving here. So that is one part. But on the another hand is, it also has to be completely self-explanatory, because if you email this pitch to an investor without you being in the room, without the opportunity to talk to them, it still should give them the same excitement. So that's why it's very difficult. So we'll dive into that more. So now we know that what it serves, why it has to act like that, and what is the information that should be included? What is the story really want to tell? So please look at the picture, the orange picture. Remember, this is the very basic one. I'm just giving you the utmost minimal, which means that most pitch decks don't work like that. They have 500 times more information than this, but this is at least what you should have. So it should tell the people what is the name of your company, your product, your target customer, who are you selling that to? What is the unique selling proposition? What is the difference between you and competitor? What is that new novel thing that you bring to the table? What is that special sauce? The innovation, the disruption. And finally, call to action. Do you want them to join you as investors, co-founders? Do you want them to invest and give you money? Do you want to loan the money from the bank? Do you want them to download your app? Do you want them to come to your restaurant? What is the call to action? So the pitch should be very clear about your intention of that conversation, or else people will get out of that conversation and think, oh, cool, I met a new cool guy, and nothing happens next. So what is in a pitch? The key to crafting a good pitch is to keep it short and crisp while covering all the pertinent information. All of the relevant information from the pitch deck should be condensed to a concise 30-second speech. And what I mean is that the pitch deck is not 30 seconds, but if you want to, you can make it into a 30-second speech. It should explain the genuine need for a product in the market. Don't sell something that the market does not need. There's another case study for those people. I watched it on NBC or BBC the other time. There's a documentary talking about why Subway failed in Vietnam. For those who know about the brand Subway, I love Subway. When it's a great, I think it's a great concept, a great business. It's basically American bánh mì. And they have these sandwiches, and I still remember that time when I was graduating university, and the recession happened in America, where the economy just slumped down and everything. And they came out with the idea of a 5-inch foot-long, $5 foot-long Subway. See, it got into my head so much. I still remember their promotion at the time. The marketing was awesome. So Subway basically is a fast food company, but it sets itself apart from the competitor like McDonald's or Burger King is because it brands itself as a healthy fast food company. So by healthy, we mean that, the bread is like me, the bread, the vegetables, the real food, not the over processed, meat patties. And it branded itself as healthy. The cost is higher than McDonald's, to be honest, but they came out during the recession. They came out with that business ideas that we are healthy option for fast food. We are even cheaper nowadays because with only $5 or 5.5, I don't remember quite. It's been, I don't know, 15 years, and it has, you get a foot long sandwich. And it was one of my favorite brands. But the funny thing is what works in the US, in the States, doesn't necessarily work in Vietnam. And I had no idea that Subway came to Vietnam until I watched that documentary. And apparently they came to Saigon, they came to Ho Chi Minh City, and they opened their shop. And the ridiculous thing about that is what? Why would Vietnamese people spend $5.5, which is about 120,000 dong, on a sandwich where we are renowned in the world for that dish, which only costs about 30 to 40,000 dong, which is 30% of what Subway is selling for. And even in that sense, the taste that we have been built in with is completely different with the taste that Subway was offering. And it's the same way as Starbucks coming into Vietnam, different coffee, but at least Starbucks has a concept about the store, the decor, and something like that, even though now they are still not breaking even. But at least they're surviving in some way. But with Subway, it was completely unsuccessful. So remember that, we have to, the pitch deck, or it needs to have a substance. It needs to have a feasible business plan where the product has to be needed by the market. It needs to have a unique selling point, which is not, there's 2 points to that word, USP, which is it has to be sellable and it has to be unique. So you need to be sellable. Healthy for a great price, that's sellable. And it's unique because in the fast food world, it is healthy. However, when it comes to Vietnam, is it sellable? Not really, because the price that is considered low in the US is actually considered very high in the Vietnamese market. And they're selling something that's already abundant in our market, and we are renowned for it. So which makes it, not very unique and not very sellable, which means that there's no unique selling point in this case. The only unique selling point for Subway in Vietnam, it's an American brand, that's all. So coming back, so it has to explain the genuine need for the product in the market, its unique selling point, what differentiates the product from its competitors, and most importantly, the business model. How does it work? Why is it special? What is the weakness? What is the strength of that way of making money, of that way of designing a business? So I will give you another example. It's just about the phrasing of the word. This is what it's called an elevator pitch. You will learn about the elevator pitch later on in this course. Right now, it's just short explanation of the business, basically. We are a boutique recruitment agency that helps tech companies hire the best programmers. We run our own hackathons to identify talent and match them with our clients. This helps companies hire top talent without too much effort on theirs. We have some clients on retainer, but also work with some companies for specific openings. You could stop by at our next hackathon in Palo Alto to get better sense of how we scout talent. So let's analyze that and see if it works in this sense as an elevator pitch. So first, does it explain the genuine need for the product in the market? Yes, because if you look at this, we are the boutique recruitment agency, don't care about that, but we help whom? We help tech companies hire the best programmers. So their market is being clearly identified here as the tech companies. And the tech companies nowadays, what's happening? We've got a world that talks about 4.0 digitalization. We talk about, the new revolution in the industries. We talk about tech. We talk about Tesla. We talk about Bitcoin. We talk about Dogecoin. So we are living in a world and at a time where everybody's crazy about tech companies. If 100 years ago, 50 years ago, the biggest companies in the world own factories, they are car producers, they're retailers. Nowadays, the biggest companies in the world are Apple, Facebook, they are all tech companies. So yes, the market right now is full and an abundance of tech companies. And what do tech companies need? The main producers of those companies are not, factory workers, not machines, not robots. They are coders, the humans who are creating these codes, algorithm programs, developing code. And those people are very difficult to hire. And usually for tech companies, when somebody quits, it's going to create a big hole in the team and they need somebody competent to refill that position. Because of that, the market for hiring tech companies and programmers is a very big market nowadays. And what? Identify talent and match the client, which helps the unique selling point. The second question is there a unique selling point? Yes, there is a unique selling point because is it sellable? Yes. The tech companies, if they organize their own hiring, they will need to hire and test and wait and pray that the new programmer guy is capable. But if that is a lot of cost, it's human power, opportunity cost, it's a lot of things. But if you can have somebody else do all the dirty job of finding that great human coder for you, then you bear less cost. Because of that, it actually is very sellable. I think a lot of nowadays we have in Vietnam, we have Vietnam Works, Talent Pool, and all the other companies that work in finding and recruiting people for big companies. Because big companies, they are busy doing something else. So they want somebody to do their dirty job for recruitment. So yes, it makes it, very sellable. A lot of companies would pay for that. Is it unique? Yes, because it's unique because it's a boutique company, which means it's very small, and it helps hiring tech people. It helps companies hire talent without too much effort by doing their own hackathons. So when you're opening, hackathons are not really that easy to handle. Because hackathons, you need to have understanding of the tech. You need to know how to create problems to solve for tech companies. You need to be tech in order to work for tech companies. And most recruitment companies do not have that capability. But this company can organize their own hackathons to find that talent and match them. At the same time, look at where they are located. They are located in Palo Alto. Palo Alto is in the middle of Silicon Valley. It's in the basically it's a capital of tech companies in the world. So that's why it's much easier for them to recruit. So that is basically, you can see how what I mean by, business model, sellable, unique value proposition, things like that. So why do we pitch? Why do we have to do all of those things? Why do we have to learn how to write these sentences? Why do we have to learn how to make these presentations? Why do we put so much emphasis? Well, money. So a lot of you, I've seen this a lot in Vietnam, that people are becoming more and more familiar with the startup world. I have met, when I first came to Vietnam and start working with startups, we only met, maybe in a meet, we probably meet like 5 or 6 companies. And now if I go to one of those meetings, I will be swamped by, 100, 200 startups. And they all have, we have this app for pet tracking. We have this app for vaccination. We have the app, like, they have an app for everything. And a lot of things have changed, in the past 10 years in Vietnam, in the startup community. And now even normal people watch Shark Tank. Back then, when we talk about Shark Tank, the US version, nobody knows about it. And nowadays, everybody is talking about, Shark Lee and Shark Hung and all of these people. So personally, before we get into this part, and which is the second part, how to get funding for your startup. How do you get money? So if you're a startup owner, you probably want to, get money for it. And maybe that is going to be your biggest motivation to do a pitch and to learn how to craft a pitch. But before we get into that, let's have a talk, let's have a real talk. I have to share that even though I work in the startup community, even though I'm familiar and I'm supportive of all the startups, I have to say that I'm a bigger fan of entrepreneurship than a startup world. The reason is the same exact thing that I'm doing right now. I know that, you know, being a startup, being in Silicon Valley, being in Vietnam and asking for money, it's a good model. It's a great business model. You have a great idea, but maybe you're not the best CEO. Maybe you know nothing about banks, how banks work, how to control your finances. And maybe you don't want to be, you know, a 9-to-5 manager of your own company. So finding somebody who puts the trust into you, who gives you all the resources, who gives you money, and then you grow really quickly, and then you become Mark Zuckerberg, and then, you know, those kind of things, and you find it, you might find it very attractive. But remember, Mark Zuckerberg, he's running his own company as a CEO until now, ever since he was, you know, a university kid until now. He actually acts like an entrepreneur. He actually takes risk. He tries everything, and he does everything to, you know, to do from the financing, venture capital, all those things. But he manages his company. He learns how to manage the whole big business, not a small idea. Whereas also, you know, 99% of other startups, they are selling the idea. So basically, you are a factory of creating ideas and selling them. If you admire Elon Musk, the same thing applies. Elon Musk was, you know, he was one of the co-founders of PayPal, which is a huge startup, which is a huge, you know, payment gateway, finance, fintech company. But at the same time, he is, you know, maybe the chief marketing officer, he is the chief financing officer, he is a CEO of Tesla, of SpaceX, and of his own business. So getting financing is just one of the first steps. Even though when you first start up, that's probably the thing you want the most. When you first start up, you probably think that you need money. And that's the only thing on your mind. Because you think, you know, if only I have money, my company will become this and we can afford to do that. But that's not the truth. The truth is you have to have a great company, a great idea, and you have to know how to manage it. You need to become a great CEO, a great owner. Okay. So before we talk about financing, remember, you have to do your homework first, and then you can ask people for money, because the sharks or the investors, the banks, they're not stupid. They will not invest to people who are not capable of running a successful business, because they need to cash out on every single piece of money that they put into your company. So coming back to the story. So this is when we talk about the financing. You need to know, how do startups works in order to gather investment? How does, you know, and Shark Tank, to be honest, it's kind of like a reality show for fun. So please don't think that everything in real life works like in Shark Tank. Please, please, please understand that. So first, let's talk about fundraising dynamics. How does fundraising works? What are the steps? A lot of people will want to look at that, right? So first, let me explain to you that financing works in this sense. And this is what I really have to talk to startup founders. You know, 10 people meet me and the first question is, how do I get financing? How do I get money? How do I get investment? And that is not only naive, it's very greedy. Don't do that. People want to hear the great idea first, what it can do for society first, and then you can ask for money. So the first thing is, we want to hear about bootstrapping and self-funded. Did you know that Apple had to wait years and years, even Facebook actually, they have to wait until they can make money. So they had to put in their own money first before they can ask for investment. The reason is, investors will not trust you if you don't put money into your business, because you have no risk. If they can see that you have put your own money into the business and you're burning through that money, it means that you don't need to tell them how much you love your company, what is your vision, and why you believe in that vision. People will believe you because you're burning your own money. But if, as a startup founder asking for money, you don't do any of that, then people will not trust you. You will not get a cent from investment bankers if you don't have a certain part, which is bootstrapped. Bootstrapping means, we've talked about this concept in a lot of my other startup training courses. You can go back and check them out. Basically, bootstrapping means you are so poor, you use everything you have to raise your business. Bootstrapping means taking your shoes, your boots, by the straps and pulling yourself up, which is an impossible thing to do, which is making everything out of nothing. That is the idea of bootstrapping. You have to fund through your own pockets. Then you will do what? You will do seeding. The seeding period, the reason why we call them seed is because you put in the seeds and you hope that one day it will grow into a big tree. That is the meaning of the word seeding. And who is going to give you seed money? Seed money is usually, well, in the US, it's very small. So it's probably, 500K US dollars. So it's like, I don't know, 11 billion Vietnamese dong to 2 million. That is the minimum. Of course, in Vietnam, in developing countries, it's going to be much smaller. So if you watch Shark Tank, you hear them talking, I will invest 2 billion into your startup, but 2 billion is actually even smaller than the minimum seed money in the US. So 2 billion is actually very, very tiny, very, very small. But again, startup companies in Vietnam need that amount of money. So, I'm not going to judge a little bit. Coming back. So the seed money usually is about 500K to 2 million. Secondly, usually the people who seed are angel investors. Why angel investors? So you have to hear about these kind of people. You heard the word shark already, right? So I'm not going to use that buzzword. Let's talk about angel investors and VC, which is venture capital. Venture capital also can come in the seeding period, but usually startups don't want venture capitals to come in because the venture capitalists, listen to the word, they are a professional firm who works in providing capital for ventures as in adventures. So these kind of people with this kind of trade, what do you think about them? Well, they're used to risk. They know that you can go bankrupted. They don't expect you to be successful. They just need, out of 10 startups that they invest to, one becomes Google, one becomes Apple, one becomes Facebook or Snapchat or Instagram. If one of their successful businesses, startups that they invest to become successful, then it makes up for the 9 other ones that fail. Also, because of that reason, the venture capitalists are going to be very sharky. They're going to be very evil. Oh, it's a bad word, loosely put. So basically, they wouldn't care that much about your vision. They just care about the cash ability, the ability of your business to make money. They will care about your success, but they will care about it in quite a violent way. They will control a lot of aspects in your company, and you will be under a lot of stress to be successful. And if you fail, they will probably consider you just, another failed venture. So because of that reason, we do not want venture capitalists to come in early in the seeding stage. We usually want angel investors. Like the word it implies, angel investors are angels. They are nice, they are guardians, they are supposedly amazing people. They're angels. They help you for no reason. They help you just because you're good. They help you because they are good, because they are angels. So angel investors, yes, they do exist. Are individuals who actually don't really consider making money from your business. They invest in you, of course, with the promise that they will get their money back of investment and also some profit, but they don't give you as much pressure, as much obligation, and difficult clauses in the contract. So angel investors are those kind of people. So you usually want in the seeding period to work with angel investors. And then round A. So you will hear about Series A, Series B, or round A, round B. It's a fancy term. I don't know why they call it. You can just call round 1, 2, 3. But in the startup world, we call them round A, B, C, which basically just stands for first time getting money, second time getting money, and third time getting money. If you are in finance and if you're an experienced startup founder who's been asking for investment, you probably know why it's important to separate those rounds, because we are diluting the stocks. But this is not the topic for today. We will probably talk about financing later on, but with round A means that this is the first time your startup gets money. And usually here with round A, then you can welcome the venture capitalists more in when you actually get big money. And by big money, I mean $3 million to $6 million. When converted into Vietnamese dong, I think it's gonna be 3 million would be about 70 billion Vietnamese dong. And 6 million would be 140 billion Vietnamese dong, and which is a lot. So even round A is a lot of money compared to our GDP and our spending rates. Of course, it's nothing in the US or in more developed and more expensive nations, but in Vietnam, it's actually a big amount of money, right? So round A is usually around that. Round B, usually you want to raise more money, which is 8 to 12 million. And then you have round C, D, E. The more money you ask for from different people, the more rounds you have. So basically, that's round A, B, C. So you will keep asking for money. That is how the money making machine in the startup world works. We understand that it's like giving birth to a baby. We understand that we have a great idea, our baby, right? And we really know that our baby might take 10 or 15 years with a lot of money to come to life. And we cannot wait 10 to 15 years because in the tech world, the tech changes every day. We've got, Bitcoin, blockchain, everything comes out. So the time that we have in order to raise a baby, we have to accelerate it, make it faster. And we can only make it faster with two things. First, monetary support. The secondly, other kind of support. Connection, management, guidance, mentorship, networking, everything. So we ask for those things so that our baby can be on steroid. We can, give doping to our baby and then it will grow really, really, really fast. And because of that, we keep asking for money. The money is there for investment, for hiring more people, for moving prototypes, for creating a better condition so that our baby company can come out sooner and stronger and healthier. Basically, we use money to accelerate the natural growth of a company. And that's what I mean when I said, I prefer entrepreneurship because it gives the process due time. It gives the businesses the challenges and the time they need to learn and to grow. Whereas in the startup world where you're getting funding, it's a little bit rushed, where you use money to trade in for all the development in the time. And that's very dangerous because at the same time, if you give steroid to a baby, it's definitely not a good idea. It's definitely not healthy. So now you understand the funding. So with that, the typical ownership, as you can see, the venture capital usually will own about 20, 30%, yada, yada, yada. And at each of these rounds, the bootstrap, angel, seed, round A, B, C, D, you will need to do a pitch. That's when the pitch comes in. When you go ask for money, they will ask you to pitch. Are you ready to do that? So because of that, this is what's going to happen during a pitch. To get a meeting, it's not that they invite you to come to see them. In order to get a meeting, you will need a one-pager, which is a one page of paper. The objective is to kind of pick enough interest to land a meeting. This should not require a voiceover. It's just a one-pager, talks about why you should meet them. It should be a one-liner pitch, which I talked about, which is an elevator pitch. We are the boutique tech companies that does this and that, okay? It's usually about 30 seconds, as we mentioned. And then we can have a one-paragraph pitch. It's about 2 minutes where you write your business ideas, but it should only be in one paragraph. So with this, somebody busy, like me, I will be going through, I don't know, maybe 5 or 10 pitches, or sometimes in the busy seasons, maybe 20, 50 pitches per day. And it's like, getting into a university abroad. People read hundreds of applications every day. And you have to put all your heart, your brains into that one page in order to convince them to move to the next round. So that is to get a meeting. And then maybe 1 week later, maybe 1 month later, you can schedule a meeting with a bank, angel investor, venture capitalist, investment banks, things like that. And that's when you can go to a meeting and then you do the pitch deck. The pitch deck, as we mentioned, is a PowerPoint presentation. It has, maybe over 10 slides, and it talks about your business. This is when you do your Steve Jobs impersonation and you do, his iPhone 13, iPhone 10 pitch. And then the last one is you send a follow-up after the meeting. After the meeting, again, people meet tons of people every day. Please leave behind a deck. It should be, customized based on what the feedback they gave you, what the follow-up questions they have. It's a more detailed pitch deck, and you leave it for them. And then go pray to your ancestors that they will call you again. That's basically it. Okay, get a meeting, send them a very short, brief version that can give them kind of excitement so that they want to call you up and say, hey, let's meet. I like your idea. In the meeting, you have to do the pitch deck, do your big presentation, do your performance, and let's hope you do well. And let's hope you can make them believe in your business. And lastly, you have to send them another pitch deck, which is more elaborated, longer, and more detailed. And after that, you can pray. Basically, I'm joking. Anyways, so this is kind of a checklist that you can think about what's going to happen when you work in funding. In pre-seed and angel phase, remember, we talk about seeding and angel. You should have a founder. Your product is not released yet. You don't even need to have a product. An idea is good. A demo is better. And you need to have customers. Usually you don't have any customers. You probably will have just people who are willing to try your product for free. Revenue, usually no revenue. You're still burning your own money or bank accounts. You don't have any profitability because of that, but you can get a certain amount raised. And usually the founder has, up to 90% of the share. And then your company, your baby evolves, it develops a little bit more, and you can confidently go into seeding. When you are in seeding phase, you will have a team up to about 10 employees. Now you should look like a company. Your product must be in the market already. It's being developed, and it should have more than a dozen of customers. It should have people who are already using it. The customers are usually, your friends, families, neighbors, and the revenue is, still very humble, very small, modest. Your profitability is probably not there yet, but it should be clearly demonstrated that it's profitable. Of course, then you will raise bigger amount of money, and the founders now probably will have less equity because they're already given up some equity for, angel investors or their friends and families or some other investors. Then you have bridge, and then you have series A. In the series A, you have to be a company already. You should have 25 employees. You should have a sales department, marketing, maybe accounting. You should probably have CEO, CFO, and your product is probably already selling well. Your customers are happy, even though you have a small customer base, but it should be solid. In terms of profitability, it should be break even and early signs of break even. The amount raised probably at this point will be much larger, and the founder equity now is probably reduced to 50 and 60%. You have probably sold your company and your shares to many, investors and providers. So with that, I want to show you today. Let's wrap up before we go into the more interesting part, which is you have to see what other people are doing in order to understand how to do your pitch. If you're still sticking with the live stream, 100 people of you, thank you. And you are probably really interested in the startup world and how to get money. So these are the key takeaway before we go into checking the pitch deck of the biggest companies in the world, so that we can see it first. Let's not talk about how to make it. Let's just be critiques, and let's just watch other people. Let's see what Mark Zuckerberg and other big companies are doing in order to get them to where they are right now. But key takeaways. Number one, remember, investment is very, very important. We need money in order to grow as fast as we can. But it's not the most crucial thing. The most crucial thing is having a good company and somebody who's good enough at managing and growing it. So which means that we need to have a substance. Yes, pitching is a pitch deck, pitching, elevator pitch, all of those things is a skill that all of you will have to learn and can absolutely learn to do well. However, the performance itself It's just going to be helpful for you to grow your business. But deep down, people are not stupid. In order to get money from investors, what's behind the pitch, what's written in the pitch, what the truth is about your business is going to matter more. Even if you want to lie, you cannot lie. If you want to put on a great performance, but your company is not profitable, your business model has problems, we will see it better than you do. Because we have read, hundreds and thousands of pitch decks before. So we are probably better at identification of what works and what doesn't. So because of that, also when you watch Shark Tank, remember they were doing their pitch. Next time you watch an episode, look at that. Who is putting on a good performance? What about confidence? What about the story they're telling? What about the truth? What about the real reason why they got the investment? Think about what an investor would think, why they agreed to invest in that company. And so those are the key takeaways. Remember that this course will have 3 more lectures. The second lecture is going to be about how to craft the pitch, how the deck, how does it look? How many slides does it have? What do I have to write? But before we go to that, let's spend 1 hour. I think we've got 1 hour. No, not 1 hour. We probably got 20 minutes or 30 minutes to go through the world's greatest pitch, the real pitches, not the imaginary ones. So let me share with you guys. In the meantime, I'm sorry, because it's an introductory session, so I haven't had the time to say hi and interact with all of you. If you have some questions, please type it down in the comments on the live stream and I'll get back to you as I set up my computer to share for the pitches that we talked about. So this is the truth. This is the interesting part that I want you guys to see. And oh no. Showing, hopefully. Which one is being shared? Which one is being shared? Okay. So thank you. Good to see everyone. Let's see our comments. Okay, we have Tanjan who's asking, how can I show my idea to the investment audience? Through a pitch deck. And we've got, yes. Hi, Zoom. Thank you. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to embarrass you and bring your company, your restaurant and idea about in the live stream. I hope it doesn't bother you. But yeah, great business idea. I think you guys are great. So anyway, so for your questions and answers. We've got Tanjan, you've got great ideas. Let me get to them very soon. So look at the real numbers in the world right now. This is an article in Forbes. You can check the article out. I'm just going to go through it so that you can get the rough numbers of what's happening. So first, you need to understand the concept of unicorn. You probably already know that if you are a veteran in the startup world. A unicorn is basically an animal that doesn't exist. In Asia, we have the dragon, right? That we know that it's a great animal, it's a great symbolic spiritual animal, but it's not real. The unicorn is unreal. So when we talk about a unicorn in the startup world, what we mean is the unicorn is an unreal startup. It's so amazing that it raised $1 billion US. So Uber is also the first unicorn in the world because they were successful in raising $1 billion US in their rounds. Of course, right now, Uber is having a lot of trouble with managing their companies, which is what we talk about. Money doesn't mean everything. But then we have the story here is Uber, the pitch deck of Uber is in May 2018. So remember that this deck came out 3 years ago. No, I think it has to be more. The number of slides in the deck is 25 slides only. And the investment included here is the first round, which is Series A, round A. And they raised, see, at the time Uber created its deck in 2008, I'm sorry, 2008, which means that this deck is 20, no, it's 14 years ago, 13 years ago, I'm sorry, I'm brain dead. So 13 years ago, it's older than, you know, children going to school nowadays. This debt has a projected overall market worth of $4.2 billion. And now it has raised 5 times that funding. That's how big Uber was. That's how powerful their pitch deck was. But remember, it's not the pitch deck. It is the concept, the business model, the new disruption of Uber that created that amount of money. Because people who have money are a lot of times lazier in terms of bringing up new ideas. A lot of times they crave that new novel creative juice. And because of that, they would rather invest in people who have new, fresh ideas. And because of that, the people who are experienced in running big businesses, they believe in the Uber model. They understand why it's gonna change the world, which it did change the world. But the most important thing is investors, they knew that before Uber was successful. They knew that when all that idea was on paper. That's why the pitch deck or the story of a pitch is that amazing. The second company we'll also talk about, and I have a sample for you, is WeWork. WeWork may prove to be one of the most underrated company from its early days. So in the beginning, it was not very successful. It was given, the dollars raised so far at that time of the article was $1.7 billion, also unicorn. The number of slides, they have 37 slide decks, and recent valuation, so which is the value that most investors think the company is worth, is 20 billion US dollars. The bad thing is WeWork got bankrupted a couple of years ago. If you follow the story, which is what I mean by not every startup is successful. And Tinder, of course, the Tinder is more popular nowadays in Vietnam as well. So the dating app, it has created 8 billion matches, so 8 billion potential romantic relationships so far. It only had 10 decks. Their recent valuation is $3 billion. And then, of course, we heard about Snapchat. Snapchat has become extremely successful despite the difficulties when they first did IPO. So the dollars they raised was $4.6 billion, and number of slides was only $14. BuzzFeed, probably some people will be familiar. Foursquare, I think they're dead. I'm not very familiar. Airbnb, we will have an example of Airbnb shortly in a couple of minutes. They have raised 4.4 billion in 13 funding rounds. So they have A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M. So they're around M. So the 13th round. So they have raised their money 13 times and they raised 4.4 billion US dollars. Wow, that's crazy. Okay, and Airbnb is also struggling in the COVID situation. But as you can see, business is about that. Having money and these are the biggest companies in the world in the world of startups. And yet they were struggling with cash flow, with disruption, with management and things like that. So what we mean is it's not only about the money you raise. The money cannot solve your problem. The money is just going to accelerate the solution. But if you don't take care of your problem, the business is still failing no matter what. So we'll look at the example of what makes a great pitch. Give me 1 second to do a new share. Let's go straight to Airbnb pitch. I think I got it right. Yes. Okay, so here we will look at the example of the Airbnb pitch deck. Give me 1 second to get it started. And oh no, I think it's not very doable. Okay, got it. All right, so you can go to SlideShare to check this out. Just Google it, you'll find it easily, all these examples. So this is the Airbnb. And remember at that time, the name and the logo was completely different. It was called Air, Bed, and Breakfast. if somebody knows about the story of these people, of this startup, it happened because the two founders were trying to start their business, but they were so poor they had to crash on somebody else's couch. Then they realized that there are so many poor college students like them who would like to stay at somebody's place, but not many have, you know, available friends in that specific neighborhood. So airbed basically means that if you know, if you're living in the West, families usually have a spare bed. It's not really a bed, it's kind of like, yeah, it's an air bed. You put air inside, it's like a big balloon, which makes a bed. And so then you can, you know, crash it. You have guests over and you can give them an air bed. It's not the best accommodation, but it gives people a place to stay. So, and then air bed and you give them breakfast. That's how sad the name sounds, Airbnb. But anyway, so after that, they realized the need and the genuine need for in the market for that kind of business, and they created Airbnb. Anyways, so it started with this. They provide the problem. The price is an important concern for customers booking travel online. Like I said, not everybody is rich enough to stay at a 5-star hotel, even a 3-star hotel. And hotels leave you disconnected from the city and its culture. As many of you who have traveled, you know that when you live in a hotel, the neighborhood, and it makes you feel like a foreigner. It's not probably not going to be accommodating enough. And there's no easy way exists to book a room with a local or to become a host. At that time, it was so difficult because, as you can see in Vietnam, when Westerners, they come to our country, what do they want to do? Do they really want to go to, I don't know, Han Kim Lake? Probably not. They probably want to go to Sapa, stay at some exotic village where they can learn the ways of regular farmer. They want to see how life is different. That is a kind of new way. I'm sorry. That is a kind of new way of tourism. People want to experience the real substance of a country through language, culture, food, lifestyle, not going to museums or, you know, taking pictures at landmarks. And with that, there is no really easy way, but nowadays we have Airbnb. So the solution for that is what? If you can create a web platform where users can rent out their space to host travelers to what? Save money. Because yes, Airbnb is much cheaper nowadays when I go to Ho Chi Minh City. So for example, if I go to Ho Chi Minh City, these are my options. The first thing is, if you go to big hotels like Intercon, like Hyatt, if in my understanding, they're quite expensive. Usually it will cost about $100 to, you know, big numbers. So usually it will cost you at least about 3 million Vietnamese dong per night. And it's not that you cannot afford it, but if I want to give myself more comfort and better location, I can rent out the whole apartment. And I can rent out, you know, a whole apartment in Vincom Landmark, in Vincom Đồng Khởi. I can rent out even a small space in Quận Nhất. And with that, it's a very nice boutique, nice decor with a good coffee maker, with washing machine and nice bathtub, which is even nicer than a hotel room. And at that time, I can do that with only about $50 and even $30. Like 600,000 dong can get you a very nice studio in Saigon, in Quận Nhất. But the problem is this: with the same amount of money, with $30 or $40, what you get? You get A25 hotel if you compare it in the hotel prices. So Airbnb is truly a great way to save money when you're traveling, and still it gives you money. Another thing is my assistant. Hannah, she was a university student when she started up with Airbnb, and to be honest, this is a very good deja vu. One of my first classes at the US Embassy, which happened about, I don't know, 5 years ago, 6 years ago, there was a girl named Phương Anh, I remember. And she came to me and she talks about, you know, the business model. We were talking about startup and business models in that lecture. And she gave me like the reason why she wanted to open an Airbnb. And I'm very sorry, Phương Anh, because I discouraged you for opening that. Which later on she became very successful, and she owns multiple real estate and things like that. The reason why I said at the time it was a little bit discouraging is because of the cash flow. Because at the time, if you don't own the property and you have to rent the property, then the cost every month, the fixed cost that you have in the business model of having an Airbnb will be very high, especially in Corona situation like this. So people cannot travel, you still have fixed costs, but you have zero cash income. Because of that, it's a very dangerous business model in these kind of situations. But a couple of years ago, it wasn't a problem and a lot of people were successful. My assistant makes more money from Airbnb than she makes from working for me. So make money as a host. And thirdly, share culture. You can make your Airbnb more comfortable. You can make it more exotic. You can give your customers a better experience when they're staying with you. And the market validation. So they were searching because they had another website called couch surfing. The couch surfing is a market where you can connect other people, but nowadays it's no longer popular. And there are 17,000 temporary housing listings on San Francisco or New York Craigslist. So they're trying, the market validation is showing is that there is a genuine need for people to save money, to make money, but is it possible? Is it doable? Is it potential? Yes, there are 17,000 temporary housing, which means that there are empty spaces in New York and in San Francisco, which are very expensive neighborhoods. If you try to book a hotel in New York, it's gonna be hell because, well, not now, but at the time, because it's high in tourism all year round. It's very expensive city, and usually you can get a very small, and the accommodation is expensive, but not so good compared to other places, other cities in the world. So the market size, they expected, the next slide is the market size. They think that the market is huge. You should jump in right now. The slide is to show that you as an investor need to jump in right now. So 1.9 billion are trips booked worldwide. So that is what we call the total available market, or TAM. So which means that they benchmark the example of the travel. They check, maybe travel, they check Booking, Agoda to check this number. And 532 million is on budget and online trips. So younger people who needs a budget and they're very tech savvy. And then trips with Airbnb, the market share they want to have is about 10.6 million. Remember that this also came out in the early 2000s. So this is, if I'm not mistaken, this is 10 years old, over 10 years old. That's why the slide might not be the most prettiest, but at that time that was already amazing. So the product is what? They were showing their product. Their product is you can search by the city, so which is a destination you want to come to. Then you can review and compare different kind of places to stay. And then it's booked. Just 3-step, very simple. And they want to show you the business model, how they are going to make money, why you should invest in them, why you should be confident. So they take a 10% commission on each transaction. If any of you watching are working at Airbnb, is that number still the same? Are they still getting a 10% commission, or how much? How much has it changed? If you can share, that'd be great. And so we've got 10.6 million trips, and they take 10 commission of that, because they are aiming for $10 million. So they will get about 20, what's that, 10 million of 20? So that means that, they get an average fee they cost is about $70 per 3 nights. So that's average per customer, they will get $20. With 10.6 million bookings, they will get about 200 million revenue. Yes, it was made in 2008. So that was, 15 years ago, 14 years ago. So they estimated that they will make $200 million per year if their company becomes functional. And the market adoption is this. They have targeted the events. So first they targeted the cultural events. Oktoberfest in Germany, Summerfest, Euro Cup, which is, soccer, football related, and Mardi Gras. So they have different kind of festivals in the world where they know that people have the willingness to go to travel. Again, in the Corona situation, I think that we need to change our business models, because now people have the willingness to go, but there's not much place to go, available places. And they have partnership with Orbitz and Kayak. At that time, it was quite interesting because Orbitz and Kayak are also booking services, but they are supposed to be competitors. However, Kayak and Orbitz, usually they book airplane tickets and hotels. What they lack is apartments and airbed and breakfast. So basically Airbnb, I think they forced these partners to work with them. And of course they have Craigslist, which is a kind of listing service in the US. So now here you can see, this is the competition. They have a competition slide where they analyze the business model. So their direct competitors is Craigslist. The Craigslist is less online. At that time in 2008, maybe some of you watching are not even born yet. So in 2008, it was mostly offline. My first camera, I bought it on Craigslist. You have to come to that person, you meet them. If you want to stay in Craigslist, somebody's house, you also have to come to that house and agree. So it's mostly offline. So if you're booking, you're in Hanoi and you want to book, Paris, then it's impossible to do that. Both are very affordable, and so it's quite cheap. However, hotels.com, where you can book also accommodation, but it's also equally online. However, it's more expensive. So they show that they are not only making it more, the transaction easier by putting everything online, but they're also much more affordable. So that is the story of Airbnb, and this is the competitive advantage. They are the first to market. Nobody has had better, faster move than them. They are host incentive, which means that they are incentivized. They are encouraging the host to be able to do that. You only need to list once, and then your content is in the database. It's very easy to use. Go on Airbnb and check it out. You have different profiles for each of the hosts as well as the client. And the design and the brand will create a better experience. So nowadays, from 2008 until now, which is 13 years later, we are still using these products and venues to use. So for those who don't understand the Airbnb, the basically is, go on Airbnb, try things out and see their business model, how beautiful that is. It creates income for people who have land. So for example, I moved myself here, but my apartment is empty. So I gave my assistant the green lights, like you can do whatever you want, redecorate. My apartment actually at that time was very suitable because it was a 1-bedroom studio, which is very suitable for Korean or Japanese experts. The way to the Bắc Ninh province where you can work in Samsung, Canon is very easy and people can work. So basically it gives people like me, which will be very lazy, to rent my own apartment, a platform where I can just throw on the pictures, describe it, put on why it's interesting and what kind of people it's for, and I can make an income. As well as the people who are booking accommodation. A lot of times, as I said, the Japanese and Korean experts, when they go to Vietnam, if they're working for Samsung or Canon, they don't really need to live in, Hoàn Kiếm district. They don't need to live in the center of the city. They might just want to be closer to their factory, but still in Hanoi area, so they can come in the city and relax at night. So the Airbnb created that kind of things, more options for people to stay, more options for people to rent. So that is the beauty of the business model. So as I said, if you have noticed something, the slides in the shares, you will see more repetition of these slides. But the most important thing I want to say is the business model, why it matters, what value does it bring to the table, to the client, is more important than the slides itself. So let's see another classic. How does Facebook raise to be one of the top, biggest, and most profitable companies in the world? Let's see how they did in 2006, I believe. No, 2003, 2004, that's when they came out into the market. So that was almost 20 years ago. Good job, Facebook. You're evil, but we are live streaming on your platform and you are still winning. All right, so next, let's go to the Facebook pitch. The slide layout here, it will start by this. So the quote, the Stanford Daily. In 2004, yeah, so I was right. It was 18 years ago, almost 20 years ago. Classes are being skipped. Work is ignored. Students are spending hours in front of the computer in utter fascination. The Facebook, yeah, at the time it was called the Facebook. We actually had to type in the Facebook. Yeah, I was in high school at that time. The Facebook.com craze has swept through campus. Okay. Next is, see, it's kind of like a theatrical performance, very dramatic. What is the Facebook.com? The Facebook.com is an expanding online directory that connects students, alumni, faculty, and staff through social networks at colleges and universities. This online directory allows for user connection on the basis of friendship, courses, social networking, including intra and inter-school network, has a built-in messaging system. This is what we call the 30-second pitch. It should be explaining what it is in the shortest way possible without the details, but making people excited about that. And I know you guys are gonna laugh at it because it sounds so boring. But at that time, it was the coolest thing ever. Just the same way as if you talk about TikTok nowadays, it's all the craze. But if you look at TikTok, what's gonna happen is, you know, we create a platform where people can shoot 15 seconds video and of their pets and of themselves dancing and transforming. It sounds silly as well, but TikTok is the most downloadable app right now. So the Facebook is an expanding online directory. So in the beginning, it's all about having your face in a book. That's why it's called Facebook. It's a directory where people, students, alumni and staff through social networks as colleges and universities. So that's why when I was in high school, it was impossible for me to get the Facebook because it was used only for university students. When I got into universities and my email, I had that email, you know, the .edu, that's when Facebook allowed me to have an online profile. It was a status. It was a success to be on the Facebook. So they talk about the user profile. The user maintains, updates profile that includes, this is the explanation of the product. So contact information, personal information, even course information, because remember what? Facebook happened at Harvard, where people know each other. You know, you make friends, like if you're in university right now, you make friends through courses. You need to know who's in your class. You know, you maybe know their faces. You don't know who they are. So this is where you get them. Course information and a picture. If you have a crush on the girl in your class, you want to know what's her name, ask for her number, yeah, get her Facebook. Nowadays, people do the same thing 20 years later. Additionally, the Facebook.com automatically adds to each user profile links to the school new article that refer to user, last user way message, blah, 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 blah. So that is what it does. Social networking. So this is when the word social network became true. Before that, we don't call it social network. What did we call it? Before that, we had places like MySpace. Yeah, I'm too old. Yeah, people who know MySpace, what it is, are old people. But we didn't call it social network. It was not until, you know, the Facebook time that we started to use the term. So they will talk about intra-school networking, social net, course roasters, advanced search engine, yada, yada. So they explain what does it mean to be a social network, even though nowadays we take it for granted. 20 years ago, it was brand new. And they were talking about how they were expanding the school. So as you can see, they are very arrogant. In the beginning, they just want to have Ivy League schools, which is the most prestigious, expensive schools in the US. So they have Harvard as the first one, Columbia, Yale, Dartmouth, Cornell, UPenn, Brown, and Princeton. They want all the elite people to be connected together. And then they wanted to move to the other school. And even though they are not the Ivy League, they're still MIT, Stanford. Really, Facebook, you are too elitist. And then they expand to the peasants, us. Anyway, so the audience is the college addiction. There are 15 million college students in the United States with an estimated purchasing power of 85 billion. This is what I want to stress on. College students have money in their pockets for your service and products. This year, they will spend 21 billion on restaurants and food, 9 billion automobiles, 5 billion on clothes. Facebook never wanted to be free. So all of you who thought that Facebook is free, shame on you. They buy your eyes. They buy your intentions. They buy your attention span. Facebook needs you to be constantly scrolling, seeing advertisement. Even though the Facebook advertisement, we only see them in the past, I don't know, maybe a decade, maybe 10 years. And it's almost over 10, it's a almost 20 years, 18 years company. They gave you a Facebook free for 8 years, and then they start cashing out on money on advertisement. So Facebook was never meant to be free. They were evil from the beginning. Sorry, Facebook. And they understood the money-making machine, money-making scheme from the beginning. That's why you need to understand the business model of Facebook is they understand that university students, college students have spending power. Excuse me. And then there are also other people, which is demographic, blah, blah. We've got men and women and age from 18 to 24. So these site usage at that moment, Facebook had already 70,000 students on the website, and they have unique users, blah, blah, blah. This is what they accomplished. They grow the user, and they were showing the advertisement since the beginning. 18 years ago, they have thought about how you can do online shopping and targeting customers and things like that. And at the beginning, the funny thing is at the beginning, they were targeting advertisement for degree concentration courses. That was very funny. Nowadays, even if you just went to the bathroom, Facebook would know it. So this is what's going to happen. They talk about banner sites. So if I'm not going to go into in details, and then you can go into the facebook.com. What I'm trying to say is Facebook came out almost 20 years ago. They know the power of connection. Their pitch deck was talking about this group of people, college students, which brands and companies find it hard to access to. How do you advertise to these people? They live in dormitories. They live in close-knit communities. So give them something that they need. What do they need? They go to a course, they see somebody hot, they want to ask for that person's contact. No need for talking anymore. Now you should just know that person's name or face and look up on the facebook.com, and then you can make that connection. If Facebook keeps making people attracted to their content, to their platform, then they can get our attention and our loyalty in using the app. From this kind of loyalty, you can do advertisement targeting, and you can make Facebook nowadays. So even now, we are on Facebook. We have hundreds of people on this live stream. There are millions of people like me right now on Facebook talking to you guys. There are different brands, even the US Embassy on Facebook, where we are using the platform's free features of reaching people, knowing more people, giving more information, spreading more connection. But at the same time, Facebook is winning at us getting the advertisement, attention, and buying power. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is why they are one of the biggest companies in the world. Because of the business model, not because of the pitch. But the pitch has to show the potential, excitement, and why it works. Anyways, with that, I want to end our example today. You will see some very ugly pitches, such as Airbnb and Facebook, because they are very old. Pitching and pitch decks have been done many years ago. So we've gone through Facebook, and in the next session, we will talk about WeWork, Uber. Yes, and we can see how the more modern pitches are made, how nicely they are designed, and all the content that is done. Hopefully, we can see you be more successful with your pitches, and maybe see you on Shark Tank one day. But for now, I have to say goodbye. We'll have our session in the next week, same time, same date. Please bookmark this on your calendar. We have to stay inside, stay safe, stay warm, but educate yourself, read more books, go on our podcast and our live stream so that we can share more information. Again, my name is Nikki, and thank you for being with us in the series of startup training, pitch deck, how to craft the perfect pitch. I'll see you next week. And if you have any questions and comments, leave them beneath and we'll get to you. Thank you. Have a good night. Bye, guys.